Stop it. Just watch. 5 minutes. Maybe 10 minutes max. All right. Real quick. Everyone just look for strategies. All right. So, first step. Where you should be at is kind of, some of you have gotten pretty far already. But look up here and look at my model, right? So what's happening here is I've started to shape it in the shape of its profile. And then I'm getting to this point of I need to trace this arc, similar to the cockpit in the TIE fighter, right? And there's a couple ways you can go about doing this. I need a semicircle here, somehow. I could add an edge loop or two, and that's what some of you are doing. Don't forget, I'd like to remind you, don't forget, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 faces. If I do an extrusion trick, right, that'll be really easy. If I hit Command E, I can scale those in. Remember, you can do this flat extrusion, right? Now I have a lot more faces and vertexes to mess around and make that semicircle. Now I can kind of move vertex by vertex and get these in line so that they fit this semicircle a lot better, right? So people often forget that trick, so I'm going to keep reminding you daily that you can do flat extrusions. I'm always going to stop at a point in my modeling where I'm like, oh, there's a good point for a flat extrusion. So flat extrusion, again, is when you select some faces and you hit extrude, but you don't pull it in or out. You just kind of shrink it so that it gives you a whole nother ring of vertexes. And what I would start to do, right, and I'd start to go to form mode, and I'd start placing these vertices in line with the semicircle here, right? So that way I have something to work with when I start extruding out to make that ridge or that bump. That's going to be his wing pivot thing, right? So once again, that's the flat extrusion, okay? And that doesn't pull anything out, right? It keeps it flat. It keeps it in the shape there, okay? Let's talk cutting it in half. All right, now that you got your project open, now that you're ready, like some people you're not going to cut in half. Like Jonathan is doing a guitar. He might not cut in half, right? But Alex is doing like a mask, so he'll want to cut it in half, right? So some people will, some people won't. Here's just how to do it. Pick the way you're going to want to cut it. Some people are going to want to cut it on a different view. Both of my objects have been fortunate enough to be cut right down the middle on the YZ plane. The YZ plane is this plane, right? But you can cut it elsewhere. And again, it's very simple. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to Mesh Tools, and I'm going to choose Insert Edge Loop, and I'm going to drag it right down the middle. I am not worried. I am not concerned with it being perfectly flat, okay? Or perfectly straight down the middle, because I have that Konami code trick. So as long as it's close to the middle, I'll worry about it being perfectly in the middle later. And then the last step, I've made my edge loop to delete your faces. The easiest thing to do is, remember up here? Right up here. This thing right here, this little arrow. Double click on it, and you have camera-based selection. Make sure camera-based selection is turned off. Be in face mode here. And drag a box, and you'll select everything to the left of that cut. If you don't have camera-based selection turned on, right? If camera-based selection is still checked, when I do this dragging a box, what's going to happen is I'm going to hit delete. It's still going to have faces. I'm going to hit delete, select them, hit delete. It's still going to have faces over here and over here, right? Oops, it looks like so I can still kind of do it, but I just got to kind of, and then I might accidentally select through it. There we go. All right. So cutting in half, good to do early. Those tools again are Mesh Tools, Insert Edge Loop, and then making sure you're unchecking camera-based selection. And it's right there. And I am pre-apologizing now because we're so close to the pool, and for some reason, the sound seems to travel better when we're higher. So you're going to hear a lot of whistles, buzzers, and stuff. It tends to make you crazy if you've been hearing it all day. So if I seem a little like, it's the water polo tournament going on that is making me a little schizo. All right, it's the loudest sport. It's louder than football. More bells and whistles. All right, I digress. You guys get going to work, but always, everyone stop, pause. Stop, pause, look at me. Always ask yourself this question. Do I really need to extrude? What can I do before I extrude? What can I do before I add an edge loop? Really try to minimize your extrusions and your edge loops. You don't want to have a lot of lines, edges, and vertexes until you get near the very end, right? So try to minimize that. And then also, one more thing, double check your 3 mode, right? When you're undoing your edits, right? When you're undoing your extrusions, double check that you've done it all the way, right? You don't want to have those extra loopholes. Okay, that being said, I'm going to float around in a second. You guys got the whole period to work. Keep working.